many games will the Kansas City Chiefs win in 2025? Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom, to your official schedule preview and record prediction for the Kansas City Chiefs. In this video, I go game by game, pick by pick, and I ask the question, will the Chiefs have a Super Bowl hangover, or will they win another Super Bowl? Gronk, spike the like button, or if you prefer, Kelsey, spike that like button, and let me know in the comments, how many games will Taylor Swift attend, and how many games will the Chiefs win in 2025? Let's get to their schedule and break down their toughest foes, opponents, and their easiest victories. Beginning with Week 1, the Los Angeles Chargers in Brazil on a Friday night. What a way to kick off the season. It's not the opener of the season like Chiefs fans have come accustomed to on a Thursday night, because unfortunately the Chiefs, if you guys forgot, I know you're trying to, they lost the Super Bowl, unfortunately. But Friday night, a nice consolation prize, a lone, standalone game against one of your biggest rivals, your little brother, the Los Angeles Chargers. And because of that fact, I think the Chiefs will win. Now, I do think the Chargers are a better team than they were last year. I think on paper, their offensive line will be improved. I think just having Harbaugh and Herbert together for another offseason and another season will make them a better team. I think the Chargers have done a little bit of work in their backfield to get better there, and their receiving core to become more dangerous as an offense. Where they haven't really improved is defensively. I think that the Chiefs offensively could be improved this year with some weaponry from the beginning of the season. Rashee Rice back, that should help. Hollywood Brown for an entire season. Now we have to find out what the offensive line is going to look like without Joe Thuney and the new left tackle situation. But I have faith that Andy Reid, in a Week 1 setting with the entire offseason to prepare, will be able to block Khalil Mack, be able to give Patrick Mahomes some nice little plays that nobody's ever seen before, because this is what Andy Reid does in every Week 1, comes up with some creativity, comes up with a bag of tricks, especially after an embarrassing Super Bowl loss. And I think the Chiefs have a good enough game plan through Spags on defense to be able to disrupt the Chargers' running game most specifically. If the Chargers are able to run the ball, that's where the Chiefs could get into issues, because I think the Chargers want to be a physical team. That's the way they want to play. But if you can force them into down and distances where their receivers actually have to make plays, that's where the Chiefs will have the edge. So I think Kansas City wins because I think they have something to prove. I think that it's a neutral venue, which they'll be accustomed to playing in big games, right? Standalone action. And I believe that the Chiefs offensively will have a little bit more spark than the Chargers. So give me the Chiefs in that exciting opener. Now, we get down to business. Week 2, the Philadelphia Eagles come to town for the home opener in Kansas City. That will be electric, exciting, and Chiefs fans probably want to win one game, this game, more than any game on their regular season schedule. But I think they'll lose. Because this matchup is so close to when they played the Super Bowl, in terms of it's basically 3 games or 2 games from when they played the Super Bowl, that last opponent. That typically, to me, spells disaster for the team that got blown out in the first game. I just don't know if you can make enough adjustments. I don't know if either team is different enough for the result to be totally opposite or different. Now, Kansas City could come up with better protection for Patrick. They could come up with more ways to move the football. But ultimately, I think the reason they lose is because I don't know if their defense can just go toe-to-toe with the overpowering offensive line of Philadelphia and the combination of skill from Saquon, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. It's just too much to deal with. And the Eagles' defense with Vic Fangio, he's had a good ability to slow down Andy Reid, a good ability to fool Patrick Mahomes, and I feel he's going to keep that constant in this game. Now, I do think it will be a lot closer. I don't think it will be an absolute shellacking blowout. I think the Chiefs have too much pride. I think they're going to step up here, and I do expect it to be a close game. But even in Kansas City, I think the Eagles will win this game because I don't think they've gotten that much worse from the team that we saw dominate the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So I'm going Philadelphia, so 1-1. The Chiefs will bounce back against a fairly easy opponent in the Giants. The Giants do have a very talented front seven, though, so watch out. This will be a good test back-to-back weeks against the Eagles and the Giants of where your offensive line is at early in the year. And if you're not careful, in New York, Russell Wilson, Malik Neighbors, they could steal a game. There's enough there where they could steal a game with a good defensive performance from Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, and the boys. So don't be shocked if this game's actually competitive and close because the Chiefs may take the Giants lightly because they play so many big games and they play the Eagles and then in between they have the Giants and then the Ravens. So it's like the Giants game is kind of the one that they might look past, which is where you could get in trouble. That is the definition of a trap game. But I still think the Chiefs will be good enough in the end to make less mistakes, more plays, and win. Week 4, the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game they could lose. But based on history, I'm going to take the Chiefs at home. I think if this game were in Baltimore, I might reconsider. And I do actually think the Ravens as an overall team project better in the regular season this year than Kansas City, partly because of the schedule, but I think partly because of their talent. That being said, Kansas City has had the upper hand in this setting and this matchup and this rivalry. They've had more often than not a good game plan for Lamar Jackson to be able to get pressure on him, to be able to cause confusion for him, and they've done a great job at matching the physicality of the Ravens on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, whether it be stopping their running game or whether it be running the football on Baltimore or even find tricky ways to move the ball and matriculate the ball down the field. I think that Kansas City has the coaching to go toe-to-toe with Baltimore's defensive scheme and secondary. I think defensively, they have the blitzing and the creativity to be able to foil Lamar Jackson and fool Lamar Jackson, and I think that the Chiefs can win this game. So I'm going to go Kansas City. Week 5, Chiefs at Jacksonville. This is another weird game because this is a Monday night game on the road against a competitive, competent opponent, but not one that you're looking at as Baltimore or Philadelphia. So this is a weird game. I could see Jacksonville making this pretty hype and competitive because Jacksonville does not play on Monday night very often. And for that simple fact, they're going to give their 100% A+ effort. Plus, Liam Cohen had a great game plan last year against Steve Spags when he was in Tampa Bay. So I expect a good performance from Trevor Lawrence, Travis Hunter, and Brian Thomas, which could be one of the most potent combinations in football this year. Defensively, though, I don't think Jacksonville matches up with Patrick Mahomes and the offense of Kansas City. So ultimately, I think the Chiefs make more plays, they possess the ball better, and I think ultimately that's why they win this game. Week 6, Detroit. I actually think they'll lose to Detroit. I don't love the matchup against Detroit because Detroit is aggressive, they're in your face, and they have the line of scrimmage ability to dominate that facet, which is hard to overcome. So the Lions, they've got a quarterback that has never lost to Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff, first and foremost. Number 2, they beat them the last time they played in Kansas City, so I've seen it before. Number 3, Dan Campbell does not care. He'll fake a punt on 4th and 1 at his own 19-yard line. Those are things you need to beat a team like the Chiefs. You need to be aggressive, okay? And the Lions will play man coverage. They will get up in your face. They will blitz. They will, run the ball down after down after down if it's successful. And I could see the Lions winning the time of possession battle, winning the 4th down battle, winning the red zone battle because they have such a good offensive line. They have Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive front. They've got corners that can be feisty and in your face. And I think they can throw off the timing of Kansas City on both sides of the ball. And I think they can make them less creative defensively because teams are so worried about the Lions running the ball on them. So that makes you simpler, kind of like the Eagles, right? So I think the Lions will win this game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs did win this game. And the ultimate difference could be the lack of Ben Johnson for the Lions. That could be a big difference maker, but we have to see what the Lions look like without Ben Johnson. Week 7, I actually have the Raiders beating the Chiefs, so I think they're going to lose back-to-back games, which is rare. but I expect them to lose back-to-back games, or I expect them to lose the Raiders one time this year. I think the Raiders are going to be a weird team to play because they have some weird weapons. You're talking about Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. Those are just guys that are inherently, especially for Kansas City, more difficult to match up with. Kansas City is bad against tight ends last year. They're pretty mediocre to bad against the run over the last few years. And I think those are challenging elements of the Raiders. Plus, now they have a baller in Geno who can take a hit in the pocket and make plays. And he's very accurate and precise with the ball under pressure. And at the same time, defensively, they've had a good calculation of a game plan. Pretty much every time they've played the Chiefs, it's just that sometimes they execute, sometimes they don't have the talent to execute. But the Raiders have shown that they can play with the Chiefs the last couple of years. They should have beat them last year, let's be fair, in Kansas City. And they did beat them the year before. So I think the Raiders, with improved coaching, improved quarterback play, they will beat the Chiefs this year once. Week 8, the Commanders, another huge game. I think the Chiefs do win this game. I just think that the Commanders' defense is not good enough, and I think the Chiefs will expose that. I don't think they have the pass rush to truly get after Patrick. And I think he'll have a lot of time. On top of that, I think Spagnuolo, we've seen what he can do against Lamar. I think he'll also be able to contain Jaden Daniels. So I like this matchup for the Chiefs, despite a tough opponent. Week 9, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, year after year after year, what happens with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs? The Bills win in the regular season and the Chiefs win in the postseason. I think that might happen again, but I think the Bills will win in the regular season. Now, it's a short week. First of all, these ads are killing me, bro. Stop with the ads. I'm not interested. They're going to keep coming. But the Buffalo Bills are a team that I think are going to be set up for maybe their Super Bowl this year. They're going to win one eventually, you would think. But I feel like they've gotten only better this offseason. I think there's questions about whether or not Kansas City can sustain their magic. And I view it as Josh Allen will just steal them a game. They'll be able to run the ball a bit on Kansas City as they typically do. And their defense, pretty bad against the Chiefs overall, but they typically play better at home in the regular season. So I would take the Bills because, Josh is one of the few that can outplay Pat. And for all those reasons, tradition, all that sort of stuff. But when talking about the Chiefs, okay, this is a big game because if they do lose this game, it could cost them potentially the number 1 seed. It could cost them a top 2 seed because I think if they beat the Ravens, that's definitely going to help. But it does really feel like the top 3 seeds will be Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City in some way, shape, or form or order, right? But it is a short week going against Josh Allen in Bills Mafia land. That's going to be tough. But then they get a bye week. I think because of that bye, they'll be able to bounce back against Denver in Denver, which is not an easy place to play or an easy opponent with one of the best defenses in football and Sean Payton. So that's going to be difficult, but I do think they'll win. Week 12, for no reason whatsoever, they'll probably lose to the Colts because the last couple times I feel like they have lost to the Colts, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, the Colts, they do have a good line of scrimmage. So they do have the capacity to get pressure on the Chiefs, and they also have the capacity of running the ball on you if you're not careful. Now, I'm not sure which quarterback will be playing at this point for the Colts, but Shane Steichen has my respect. You know who also has my respect? Lou Anarumo, who's the defensive coordinator, formerly of the Bengals, okay, now of the Colts. So that is a big factor to me as well. So some familiarity from that defensive side. So I think the Colts surprise the Chiefs and get a weird upset because the Chiefs always do lose 1 or 2 games throughout a year where they usually rise to the occasion against the good teams, but against the weaker teams, they might slip up. Then week 13, this won't be an easy game on Thanksgiving in Dallas, but I do think they'll beat Dallas because I think they can out-physical Dallas. Dallas is very good in the passing game, but much weaker in both sides in the running game. And I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes on Thanksgiving will show up. Week 14, I think we saw what they could do against the Texans last year. The Texans could be better this year if they can figure out a way to protect CJ Stroud, and we know they have one of the most talented defenses in football, but it's in Kansas City, in the cold. Houston's a dome team. That's a tough place for them to play. Week 15, I think they sweep the Chargers, which ultimately will give them the division edge, in my opinion, because I actually have both teams finishing with an 11, 12, or 10 win record. And we'll find out exactly what I have for the Chiefs at the end of this video. But the Chargers, I just think I need to see it before I believe it with the Chargers. And I don't quite believe that Greg Roman has the recipe to beat the Chiefs defense. And I need to see it before I believe it. Week 16, the Titans are easy money for the Chiefs. The Titans are one of the worst teams in the league with a rookie quarterback playing against Steve Spagnuolo. Good luck. Week 17, I think they'll lose on Christmas to the Broncos because they typically lose this game, or they're at least playing really poorly in this setting. I don't know why, but it's just one of those things. I think they did beat the Steelers pretty comfortably. Was that on Christmas? But I can't recall. Was that New Year's? I don't really remember. Either way, Broncos are going to beat you probably once. I mean, they did beat you the last game of the year last year when you didn't play anybody, but they probably should have beat you the first time when you blocked a field goal for the win. And I just think Sean Payton's too good of a coach. He'll make the adjustments that he didn't see in the first game when the Chiefs had a bye week to prepare. And I feel like their defense is very talented, and Bo Nix is good enough to get it done. So I think the Broncos are just too good of a team to really beat twice in 1 year, especially with the familiarity that they have. So I think the Broncos will win that game, probably really nasty and close and low scoring, but probably win it. And then week 18, it depends on whether or not the Chiefs actually have to win this game, but I think they probably will to win the division against the Chargers. So maybe even the Broncos. So I have the Chiefs winning against the Raiders to make it a split. So I have them at 11-6. And I feel like for a team that's coming off a Super Bowl loss, a Super Bowl hangover, 11-6 is a very respectable record, especially with this schedule where they play 7 primetime games, I believe. They play the best teams in the NFL. They pretty much play everybody you could possibly imagine. I mean, the only teams they don't play are, weirdly enough, Cincinnati, maybe the Rams, and maybe the Niners if they're good this year, and the Bucks. Those are kind of like the best teams they don't play. But when you look at it, they play the Chargers twice, the Broncos twice. Even the Raiders are going to be competitive now. They play the Texans. They play the Ravens. They play the Bills. They play the Eagles. They play the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving. They play the Lions. They play a lot of good teams. So yeah, Kansas City has a tough time this year compared to last year. So I have them dipping in their regular season record. But the true test for the Chiefs is always, what do they do in the playoffs? That's always the question. It was for my Patriots with Tom Brady. That will be the question with Patrick Mahomes. Their record in the regular season, as long as they make it, does not matter. Of course, they'd love to win the division, so they get the home field advantage. And I do think they'll be a top 3 seed in the AFC. Guys, in the comments, let me know if I'm accurate, if I'm wrong, if I'm inaccurate, if I'm doubting the Chiefs too much, or if I'm right on the money. Thanks, guys, for watching. Gronk spike the like button, or Kelsey spike it, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.